Hi, my name is Anne Marie Bruner Tracy, Centenary Class of 1995, and I'm the Director of Intercultural Engagement here at Centenary College. At Centenary, I'm sure that you've read all of the materials and you know that we firmly believe in the value of developing cross-cultural competencies and skills as a critical part of academic development. This not only contributes to your students' personal development, but it also facilitates skills that will enhance their employability. These skills include, but are not limited to, communication, problem solving, cultural intelligence, adaptability, flexibility, tolerance and navigating change, and a lot of other things that will vary from person to person and situation to situation. So my goal here today is to share with you how we make that happen at Centenary. And my goal for your student is to help your student learn to look at the big picture in all of the situations that they come through in life. So to that end, I work very closely with my colleagues in community engagement and career services to also fulfill the co-curricular TREC requirements, which are degree requirements. And those are requirements that students will take in community service and engagement, career explorations, and cultural engagement. TREC is a set of components, which are some are credit bearing, some are not credit bearing, that are required for graduation, and your student's advisor will help them to ensure that they meet these requirements in a timely fashion. Typically, we suggest that students will have approached the community element in the first or second year, and then the career element in the second or third year, and then the culture element in anywhere from the second to the final year. It's even possible to do the culture element in the final semester. But I will also be keeping an eye on students' timelines for my element, because no one wants to get to their final semester and be missing one single item that blocks walking across that stage, because I know that all of you want to see your students walk across that stage. Essentially, I'm your go-to person for anything that your student wants to be involved with relative to international or cross-cultural experiences. Although I would like to make clear there are lots of opportunities for students who are unable to travel for a variety of reasons. So don't think that you're limited to only going really far away from home to fulfill these cultural requirements. There are a wide range of structured programs available through the college and as well as our partner institutions. There are faculty-led programs, and there are opportunities for the independent and bold students among our cohorts who wish to create their own unique experience. And some of these are fantastic or have been in the past. From my own perspective, I think that's important. I've observed the critical nature of these cross-cultural skills, not necessarily the culture part, but the adaptability part during the last few months of our shared global experience. Change, as everyone knows, is always really hard, but we have all learned a lot about our collective resilience to navigate and remain successful, connected, and intentional until we make it to the other side of this period in history. Hopefully it won't last for all of 2020. We are always learning, and the key is never to stop learning. So to give you some context, in a typical year during SOAR, which is what we're doing now, and for the remainder of the summer, I would be assigning your students to their flight details, their classes for Centenary in Paris, and facilitating this really pedagogically and experientially robust entree into Centenary's academic life. Our programming decision to begin college in Paris might seem a little outlandish, but it's very intentionally developmental, and the programs in the absence of this introduction that will be offered through the upcoming fall semester are going to be equally intentional in an attempt to raise curiosity among your students and awareness so that all of your students will be ready and able to take advantage of the wider world when it is possible to do so. So because of the gap left in this year's first year program with the absence of Centenary in Paris, your students have had several options offered to them, including an option for additional passport points, which can allow students to access even more funding for their global opportunities. And I'm going to go through some of those with you here today. We took that decision to offer students more funding for international opportunities because of the importance that Centenary places on enhancing awareness of our global world that we all live and participate in, and that many of your students may work in. They may work internationally or with international staff in the future, and this is really important. So our session today is for parents or students to ask questions about the big picture relative to intercultural, and to ask questions about the intercultural opportunities at Centenary. We know that the Passport Points system which acts as a scholarship or grant and allows students to access funding, which they earn through a variety of campus event attendances, is going to be one of the key things that people will want to ask questions about. If anyone does want to ask questions aloud, you can either ask them aloud, you can raise your hand. If there is a lot of conversation that goes on during this session and you're worried that you may not have your question answered, or you can post questions in the chat function in Zoom, and I can read texted questions aloud for context. So to start with, I wanted to just kind of give you, we'll start with the big picture. So one of the key things that we all need to be aware of is that this is basically a map of any change that goes through your entire life. This happens over and over to every single one of us. When you change schools, when you move to a different city or get a new job, you go to college, or you drop your child off at college, or you choose to study abroad. And so my role is to both educate and facilitate the development of the skills that will make this procedure, this curve, this culture shock curve, much easier for your student, and maybe even some of the tidbits will pass on to you to navigate through the rest of your life. Because I think that it's important to remember that culture is often fascinating. It's always fascinating to me, and it sometimes is quite a lot of fun. So the next thing that we want to make sure that people are aware of is culture is all around us, but the parts that we see are only a really small bit of the actual bits of culture that are all around us all the time. So we have our surface level culture, we have deep culture, and we have unconscious rules that we may not even be aware of ourselves without some more thought to it. And so one of the things that we study in the iceberg of culture is that we just need to be aware and mindful of all of these things in the different cultures that we come into contact with, and in the context of those different cultures. So our goal ultimately is to not necessarily memorize all of these aspects of culture, but to be aware that they exist. And this will help lead us on to the goal of cultural intelligence. And cultural intelligence is the ability to cross boundaries and thrive across multiple cultures. We all see on our news screens every day that the world is shrinking. Leaders from different cultures are finding that they need to work together to solve problems. And cultures can be formed from geography, it can be formed from faith, from gender, generations, and these things all lead to employability. And I'm sure that probably this is the end result that all of the parents want for their students, and that all of the students want from their degree program at Centenary. One thing again is that I want to reiterate that travel and language are not required to participate in cultural experiences at Centenary. Language and travel are both asterisked on this list of the skills that you can see that will benefit both the student and the employer. But many of our program options that are abroad through our partner institutions are actually delivered in English, or they have English class options. And there are lots of options as well for students who may not be able to travel outside the United States for a variety of personal or health reasons. We even have local opportunities that students can find either for themselves or working with myself and my colleagues in the TREC office. Culture is literally all around us, as a reminder. One of the things that I'm going to go through are the number of programs that we have at Centenary. And this is the picture of this student in this slide is a student who did an independent program. So I'm going to start with our exchange programs. We have a number of university partners around the world where students can choose to swap places, seats in classes and residence halls with a student from, say, Northern Ireland or France, or Hong Kong, or Japan, or Denmark. And this is just to name a few of the places that students can go. And our students who go abroad and the students who come here take classes with the students in the host culture. They earn academic credits that transfer back to Centenary, and they can spend an amount of time that is kind of tailored to what fits best into their degree plan at Centenary. So these students may study abroad from Centenary or at Centenary for a semester, for a full academic year, or even a summer program, although these do vary from our partners. Some partners have 4-week programs, some partners have 2-week summer school programs, and some of them have 8-week programs. So there's a wide range of options that students can take advantage of with that. Additionally, each semester we have 10 to 15 exchange students who come and study at Centenary, and they are living and taking classes alongside your students, and they bring with them a great variety of experience as well as perspective to the classroom. They are amazingly skilled at English. In order to go to university, for example, in Denmark, students must be fluent in English before they can start taking their degree program at undergraduate level. So there are a number of opportunities. You'll see as well the American flag is up here. This is an opportunity that we have for our faculty-led programs, as well as through the Washington semester, which is an opportunity for students to live and learn and intern in Washington, D.C. for a semester, which obviously builds up the student's CV and resume and does a lot of things with that. Another option for students to use for study abroad for their culture perspective is not necessarily study related with the International Choir Tour. Every other year, our famous Centenary Choir travels abroad, and the students who go on that program, which has a minimum of 14 days in order to receive the culture credit, those students can also receive culture credit. And a new partner program that we have is Up With People. So students who may or may not be in the dramatic arts or the performance arts can choose to participate in a 6-month or a 12-month program that is a traveling program, has an international component, but it also has credit-bearing classes in leadership, in production, and the students really get a lot of confidence building and experience that they can use on their resume from those as well. Again, the Washington, D.C. semester is a great experience for students who, particularly in political science or history, or students who want to go into politics or law as a career program. Additionally, we allow students to participate in non-partner programs. So there are, if you Google study abroad, you'll find innumerable programs, impossible to trawl through and get all of them. But students can, essentially the world is your oyster, and students who want something slightly different than what is offered at each of our partner institutions, maybe they want a specialty degree program or they want a specific internship in music production or communication, and they want to try to find their own program, they can find it. Believe me, honestly, they can find it. They will then find the program in conjunction with working with me in discussions. They'll work with their advisor to discover how that fits specifically into their degree program. And then they request approval either for academic credit, if it will have academic credit associated with it, or just simple culture credit. The culture credit doesn't just involve going abroad, sitting there, and then coming home. There's a reflective piece that goes along with it if it's not credit bearing as well, because we want students to be able to distill their experiences and describe not only to themselves, but also to graduate school admission boards, to job interview panels, that they have gained skills from this amazing immersive experience and that they are going to be a benefit to whatever program or job they're applying for. And then finally, the independent projects. Students can go, again, the world is still their oyster. This is primarily, I must say, for the well-organized student, because the student is going to be in charge of planning their own travel. They're going to be in charge of planning their own learning outcomes. And but the project can literally be on any topic that includes an immersive experience, again, of at least 14 days in a culture that's different from the student's own culture. So the student on this slide right now is a student who graduated a couple of years ago, and his project was Eastern Roots, Deep Roots. And his program was based on his personal desire to find out about the country of his birth, where he had been adopted to the United States from China. And he made a great syllabus. He did a reflective journey, or journal as well. And he traveled through and kind of backtraced his entire identity. And I think he really got a lot out of it. Some other examples we have degree seeking students who are also international. So one group of centenary students who were Americans went with one of their friends who was an international degree seeking student from Mexico as a group and experienced an immersive living and learning in Mexico with a group of like-minded peers. This wasn't faculty led, but the students worked it out on their own. One other student went to Iceland to discover the ancient religions of Icelandic peoples. And then one student went to Honduras, and that program was actually in conjunction with a mission trip that he had previously been involved with his local church. But I must stress that it was not the mission trip itself. He decided to stay for an additional period and worked with a local charitable organization to go out into quite rural areas. And I think it's important to make sure that the student is experiencing an immersive experience instead of just going along and hanging out with other Americans on a trip. That's one of the things that we're trying to make sure that the student really gets to experience the culture that they're going to. Then module is what we call our faculty-led programs. We have a long history of module, and this is essentially a short course that is led by one of our outstanding faculty members and which may focus on an academic topic that will typically provide 4 hours of credit. And these are offered every year. They change every year. Faculty may or may not be available to take a class abroad in the May term or sometimes the August term. This year's August term has actually been moved to a December term. So there's lots of movable parts, but it also increases the variety that students can have to choose from. Obviously, there are some that are highly impacted and students are signing up in order of their graduation hours or their credit hours. They sign up in order of preference and they list their preferences, and it's kind of on a first come, first serve based on seniority. These trips typically will range, if they are international travel modules, they will range from between $2,000 to $5,000 depending. But then remember the fact that we've already mentioned the passport points. The passport points are key here to making sure that students are able to access these programs. One other thing is to remember is that there are local and domestic modules that are frequently offered. Local modules are offered every year, and again, these are for students who may not be able to travel abroad for a variety of reasons or decisions. One other thing to mention is that similar to our community and our culture program, students can fulfill the community and culture aspects of the TREC program by going abroad to volunteer or going abroad to do an internship from between 4 and 8 weeks. So there are a lot of different opportunities. Again, some of these will be external programs more than likely, unless they're an independent project that the student develops themselves. And if they're an external program, there may be additional costs, but any international program can use passport points that the student has earned by attending events on campus. So let's remember that. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to post those in the chat screen. I don't think that we have any questions so far, so I'll go ahead and talk about one of the most important things, which is funding. So passport points is the most commonly bandied about term that you will have at Centenary, and it's assumed that everyone knows exactly what passport points are. So one passport point basically equals $1. So Educating yourself and also your students really early on in their college career will mean that you have more time and more opportunity for planning and earning to fund one or more of these amazing opportunities that you have for all of our programs. One as well, it's important to remember that the students who are entering in the fall of 2020 have an exceptional opportunity with passport points, and that there are two options that are meant to sort of be a consolation for the lack of the Centenary in Paris program this year for safety reasons. Students have been able to choose whether they wish to receive cash, so they would receive a total of $1,000 cash, $500 in year one, and $500 in year two. Or students can choose to receive up to 2,000 passport points by choosing the passport points option. Again, you can see 2,000 points will equal $2,000. And this is in addition to the standard 2,000 passport points that students who have entered Centenary previously are able to earn or eligible to earn. So this equals $4,000 that are potential for your students to use towards these programs abroad. It could be a module, it could be an independent program, it could be in conjunction with a mission trip. It doesn't, the options are endless. So please note as well that the passport points are for the maximum number that you can earn is really for those who want to go on international travel opportunities. The lesser amounts of points are able to be used for domestic and local modules, but these are significantly less expensive for obvious reasons. There's not hotels usually involved, or as expensive as hotels, and there's not international airfare, which is the biggest chunk of international travel. So our focus for the passport points remains kind of like your passport. It's for international primarily. Students can use 500 passport points, up to 500 passport points for a domestic module, which is outside the local Shreveport area, or they can use 100 points for a local module. So they don't need to go earning 4,000 passport points if they're not going to spend them, but earn them because you never know when you might want to change your mind and do something. I think it's important to remember there will be events that students will be promoted, and students keep an eye out for those, and they plan and go and scan their barcodes that are available at those different events. The funding doesn't end with passport points. I think that's really important to remember. There are 2,000 to 4,000 if students have early deposited. There's an extra 1,000 passport points for the class that's entering in fall 2020. So there's a lot of variety out there, and there's lots of funding outside of passport points. So the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship, for example, is for students who are Pell Grant eligible. There's also the Gilman McCain Scholarship for children of active duty military. There are language scholarships for students who want to study a language that is not usually taught in colleges and smaller colleges and universities in the United States. There's science scholarships, there's diversity scholarships, there's women in STEM scholarships. There are so many scholarships. So I've put at the bottom of this slide FastWeb and Unigo, which are scholarship search engines that you can also use for degree programs in colleges in the US, but you can also find some study abroad scholarships on there. I will open it up as well to remembering where we're going with all of the culture focus. We're focusing primarily on adaptability, and these are helping your students get through and make it through every different change section in their lives. Be open and explore. That's my advice. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now, and I've also put an email address at the bottom. You're welcome to email me directly. Again, my name is Anne Marie Bruner Tracy, and you can find me on the Centenary pages, but my email address is longer than Intercultural, and that's a much simpler email address to use. But I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any questions. One thing I would also say is thank you so much for learning about your students' intercultural and international opportunities and the ways that this is going to positively impact their job possibilities in the future. If you have any other questions, again, email me. Please watch out for my other TREC colleagues' presentations on community engagement and career planning, because you'll see how all three of these TREC components, these degree requirements, do fit together to kind of give your students a well-rounded co-curricular part to their degree program. So thank you so much for attending today, and I look forward to seeing you and your students over the next 4 years at Centenary. Thank you.